everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Untethered. I'm Roger Hanson, your host, and here with me is my co host, Mark Edworthy. Besides Mark Edworthy, we have my brother Robert Hanson, Otto X, and Tan Hai Tran, our executive producer. Just promoted. That's why Mark Edworthy is now my co-host, because we had to demote him so that we could make Tan Hai Tran the new producer.
I think it's more of a lateral transfer.
Well, kind of.
Does that mean you see a decrease in my pay?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes, that's exactly what
that sucks.
That sucks.
Sorry, Mark.
Well, we paid you nothing at all last year, Mark, but we hope to double that this year.
Yep.
You have to discuss that with the executive producer of the show.
Okay, I'm the executive producer. I'm not the executive officer.
That's right. So tonight, man, we are doing current events. This is current events edition for Untethered. Next week we will be doing the public or the political edition, which is going to be even interesting too. But this one's going to be pretty good. And I actually wanted to do the first one as a Canadian news break that is coming out of Canada, and I go on shows that are considered red pill, all right, and a lot of times we don't get to hear like the actual news that is going on in Canada, because a lot of it's just red pilled information. This one is actually. Yeah, no,
I was going to say, Nioki's there.
Well, this is something you're not going to hear Naroki talk about.
Uh-oh.
And it's actually a pretty interesting conversation piece that does need to be discussed when it comes to things that are taking place in Canada. And I don't know if Tan knows anything about this or not, but I will read a little bit of the article and open it up so that you guys can get your take, so that we can get your take on this, okay? So I pulled an article up from City News Everywhere, which is
I'm familiar with that.
out of Ottawa. Okay, so the headline says, Waymo looks to bring self-driving taxis to Canada.
Waymo. Okay.
Now, this is by Denio Larinko, and it was posted December the 12th, 2025. And it says, Waymo, the American self-driving tech company, is looking to expand its popular robotic services into the Canadian market. Representatives from the California-based tech company confirmed on Friday that it would like to see its autonomous ride hailing service operating in some of Canada's biggest cities, and said it is working to make it happen. Waymo has global ambitions, spokesperson Ethan Tyker wrote in a statement to City News. We are engaging with officials across Canada to help explain our technology and advocate for legal frameworks that would allow us to bring our fully autonomous ride-hauling service to Canada in the future. Waymo is a subsidiary of Alphabet Inc., which is Google's parent company. It currently operates its robotaxi service in limited numbers of urban areas throughout the United States, and recently announced plans to expand into 12 major cities, mostly in states with warmer temperatures, where there are fewer weather challenges like ice and snow. According to records from the city of Toronto, Waymo's co-CEO, Takira Mawakana, and 2 other employees were recently approved as registered lobbyists on November the 6th, 2025, for the purpose of communicating about the potential development of bylaws and regulations related to autonomous driving technologies, including as it relates to operational authorization, commercial operations, goods delivery operations, and ride-hail operations. In April, Waymo claimed to have delivered more than 250,000 weekly rides, but a leaked investor letter that was obtained by CNBC in December of 2025 suggests that the company has seen a surge in popularity over the last few months, with ridership increasing to more than 450,000 rides per week in cities where the service is available. Tesla, the automotive company owned by billionaire Elon Musk, is also working on a similar robo-taxi service and launched full commercial services in Austin, Texas last month. Government officials in Ontario previously pulled the plug on a pilot project that would test self-driving shuttle buses on Toronto's roads after one vehicle crashed into a tree in Durham region and seriously injured an attendant on board. Toronto has considered other projects involving autonomous vehicles, including a 2025 pilot program to test self-driving delivery vehicles. Safety issues have been a major concern of autonomous vehicle development after the world's first death caused by self-driving cars in 2018. When an Uber test car struck and killed a woman in Tempe, Arizona. So that is the first topic, and I wanted to open it up with the Canadian, considering this is actually going to pertain more to your region of the world than it will the rest of us. If you have any say or anything you want to say about it.
Yeah, I've heard about the news. It's a proposal right now. I mean, there's nothing concrete going on. There's no plan, no roadmap, right?
Has there been any public comment about this? What's the feeling up in Canada, do you think, about this project?
It faces major challenge for driving for winter driving conditions.
Oh,
up here,
yeah.
Right. So, So that's something.
I forgot about that. You know, we have very bad winters here. You guys have worse. So yeah, I had not. So people are skeptical that this could work.
Yes, to say the least. Yeah. There's a pilot application. Waymo has applied for a pilot to be approved by the Ontario provincial government, but it hasn't been approved. And then there's also there's lobbying in British Columbia, the western province of Canada, above Seattle. So they're lobbying to have it introduced there too. But
well, I imagine they would. But so a pilot, like they're tried in one city with a limited number of vehicles to see what happens.
Yeah.
The winter will be the test. The winter will be the test.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that, but when you mentioned it, it's like, oh yeah, that's going to be a huge factor when things ice up. When you've got like a quarter of an inch of frozen snow on your sensors, you know, how's the car respond?
And Waymo is not tested. They're primarily introduced out of California, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And in the United States, they've expanded to a few other cities like Pittsburgh, Detroit, Seattle. None of those cities have winter
Well, I
driving
know.
conditions anywhere.
I know
Goes
that they're
to.
planning on doing it in New York too, but it's only going to be in designated areas of New York City.
New York City.
Oh, New York will be a good
Yeah.
testing ground.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
the traffic there is very hectic, right?
Hmm.
And
I'm
then the
waiting for
winter.
somebody there will figure out how to hack into them and they'll start getting carjacked.
Yeah,
There's some
but
smart cookies down in New York.
the best part too is you need to test it out in the country too, out in Canada, up farther up, because you're talking about mass producing the vehicles and all that as well. Well, since Canada's got that wide area of mountains and forests where
Yeah,
everything's getting blocked and all that, just to see how that vehicle handles that situation. Okay, like when you're driving and all that, how does the vehicle handle the the weather in them areas? The wind
Yeah, if
and
they're not
whatever
used to
else.
that. I used to have this car, and it was a '99 Thunderbird, and it was a wonderful car. But whoever designed it with the thought that they would never encounter any weather.
Hmm.
So, like, it snows here a lot, and you go to the store and you're not thinking about it, and you open up the trunk, and the trunk opens up in such a way that all the snow, ice, water, whatever's on the trunk slides directly on the lid of the trunk, or boot, as Commonwealth guys would say, slides directly into the area of the trunk, the storage area. So you would just get this huge cascade of snow. I mean, the whole car was just. It was a rear wheel drive car, one of the last of those. So it didn't handle it. If you knew how to drive it, it was great because you could skid around corners really nicely. But it wasn't not made for anything other than a California summer day,
But
and that could very well be the trouble with this Waymo technology.
because like when you're going up through the mountains and the curves and all that through the roads, this vehicle, if it's supposed to be able to handle curves and all that, different types of curves, what better way of finding out how the car vehicle
Oh, you
drives
could. There's
in
a
that area?
caribou there, or a Sasquatch, or a tribe of hinterland cannibals. Just doing that whole. Oh, sorry, Roger, but
This is confusing. I was interested in the legislation.
Yeah. No.
As far as federal is concerned, it's all over the place.
Huh.
Got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different acts.
Wow.
It
Transport.
gets very
Sorry,
interesting.
four.
It does
Yeah,
get very
both.
interesting. You want me to
That's right.
continue with what I also found out? I dug deeper in this because originally where I seen this was on the CNBC channel where they were
Are you
showing
going
the
to talk
test.
about the auto highway traffic act and the
Oh, it
amendment?
gets no. You can cover this if you want to, but this goes deeper into it with the actual company when it comes to Waymo. Because I did a deeper search on this. Okay. And you would think that this is a California-based vehicle, but this is where things take a weird twist. So I want to read this to you so that you guys get an idea of it. I wanted to open it up, let you guys get your first take on it, but I wanted to also go into the idea about Waymo supposedly being an American company that's owned by Google, or Google's parent company, Alphabet. Okay, now the thing about this is it is technically an American-owned company, and it is ran by Google, and they're not affiliated with the Chinese government or corporations in terms of ownership or control. However, the company has significant operational ties to China in China's manufacturing sector. And they previously explored business opportunities there. Now, Waymo's connection to China is this. Now, the vehicle's manufacturing, Waymo formed a strategic partnership with Chinese automakers, their Chinese automaker Geely, the conglomerate that also owns Volvo, who build the base platform for its sixth generation robo taxis, the Ojai. Now, the base vehicles are assembled in China by Zeekr, a Geely brand, and then shipped to the U.S., where Waymo installs its proprietary autonomous hardware and software. Okay, so in reality, this is a Chinese freaking built
That's
car.
nothing unusual. All technology companies get chipsets from China. I mean, when you buy your Apple device or your Samsung device, it's not manufactured in, or well, it may be put together in the US, but the chipsets come from China.
Well,
The
I think
PCBs come from China.
you've got to be suspicious of anything coming out of China.
Yeah, but or in that case, you've got to be suspicious about all technology. All.
Yes, you're catching on. Exactly. I'm suspicious of all technology. I remember reading an article many years ago, this was decades ago, about some changes in inspection of chips being imported. And this was, again, decades, probably 20 years. And something about they had changed it so that they didn't have to inspect them as hard, basically. They loosened some of the restrictions. But they did mention that when they inspected Chinese chips, a certain number of them always were compromised. Always were basically, there was something wrong with them and they were sent back. Not inoperative, but that they were doing things they weren't supposed to do. I forget the details now. It was a very long time ago. But I remember thinking that, and also thinking about the Chinese patience in their foreign policy and their plans. They like to have a lot of things in their back pockets. I don't think that every single device, I don't think they'd bother with the toaster oven here, or something like that, or even my stupid little phone, which is made in Japan. But I hope. Anyway, but yeah, in a piece of technology where they might have an interest in, I don't know, man, every government, I mean, this is common knowledge. Any kind of weapon system, for example, usually has a back door in it that the parent, producer has. Well, all those Exocet missiles that never, worked, and all those bombs, those guided missiles that didn't work during the Falklands War.
Yeah, but I'm just taking criticism of your always statement.
Well, let's just say that it's not unlikely. It is quite possible. If putting my government hat on, if I were a government, I would do that. I mean, why wouldn't you if you could?
Okay,
We're a long way from when the World War I, where the American intelligence services refused to open up private mail. After all, that would be not gentlemanly.
Hold on, Otto. This is our opportunity to put Lord Edworthy, in the hot seat, because just before I announced this freaking news, he started talking about regulations and how they were very suspicious to him, and they were all over the place. So I think this would be the perfect opportunity for you to kind of go into that observation that you just made.
On the federal level, you've got the Motor Vehicle Safety Act, Motor Vehicle Transport Act, which this Safety Act is obviously the safety standards for manufacturing and importing vehicles into Canada. The Transport Act, which controls commercial trucking and bus lanes that cross provincial or international borders, so in Canada and US.
Right.
The Government Property Act, Traffic Act, a niche federal law designed strictly to enforce traffic control on federal lands like airports, property, and military bases. And the National Park Highway Traffic Regulations, which is a standardization of basic traffic driving expectations within federal parks. But that still heavily differs to local provincial laws. And you've got the National Safety Code. But something that I noticed is that each state has got its own, or each province has got its own highway traffic maps. In Ottawa, we're talking about also 1990, chapter H8. And there was a addition added to that which came in force on November last year, and it's meant to be revoked in October next year, which allows, which talks about automated vehicles. So this, I'm just reading through this, it's quite a long document, but this pilot project, pilot use, blah, 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 private, the minister shall conduct and complete an evolution of the use of automated vehicles on highways under the pilot project before January 1st this year, and from time to time during the course of the pilot project conduct interim evaluations, right? This pilot has to be under this current legislation, which may change obviously. This pilot has to be concluded by October the 13th next year.
Wow, interesting. Now, all those federal regulations, I mean, some of it sounds like, just basically competing jurisdictions, like you were saying, federal parks, military bases, stuff like that. I don't really understand. Here in the States, the federal government can make standards, and they were like, I think immediately of the speed limit. We have a speed limit thing where all the state speed limits were set to 55 miles an hour. The federal government did that. They can't order the states to make the change, but they can say, if you don't make the change, we will not give you federal highway money. And so the federal government pressures, but I believe federal law supersedes state law when it comes to like safety and stuff. The state can be safer, but they can't be less safe, sort of thing. Like there's minimal air quality standards that the federal government, the EPA sets, the Environmental Protective Agency or Protection Agency. So like California is notorious for exceeding all of these things with these pollution regulations. Cars sold in California always are rated as having lower miles per gallon traditionally because of all the anti-pollution equipment that's added to them. So, but I don't know how it works in Canada, whether it's a much looser kind of the federal government there I don't think is quite as powerful. Not that ours is as powerful as people think it is, but
yeah,
it still supersedes a lot of stuff in the States.
Well, let me ask you this. I was curious, Canada, do they have a thing about for the fire department? How have they done practice for thing about when the electric vehicles get in car wrecks? What is the process? Because here in the States, when electrical cars, they have to know what to do and all that. The fire departments, anything like wildlife preserves and all that.
Oh yeah, the lithium batteries. Yeah, those would burn like crazy.
Yeah, because they have had cases. Some fire department people were seriously injured because they exploded, and the acid from it got them.
Yeah, they're not trained in lithium fires usually.
Now, I also wanted to point out too that Waymo, or I'm hoping that I said that correctly, but the car industry that's Waymo is actually, they've established a subsidiary in Shanghai, which is called Hymo Business Consulting, and that started in 2018, and they wanted to explore market opportunities and test the waters for potential expansion into the Chinese market. I know a lot of people in China are concerned, or in Canada are concerned about China.
I'll be back, gents. I'm being hailed.
Okay. I know that a lot of people in Canada right now are being concerned, or they're very concerned, especially in that area when it comes to the Chinese presence in Canada, especially with the people who are talking about separating from Canada and becoming their own territory in Ontario or Ottawa.
Hmm.
I guess, and that's a big deal for him. So I thought that this was actually pretty interesting. That this is actually concrete with a lot of the allegations they're saying when it comes to Canada and the Chinese, like they're terrified that China is going to end up trying to invade them if they did break away from Canada.
I don't know if a physical invasion, although China could do it. I mean, they just send 1,000,000 foot soldiers somewhere for no, like this. To them, that's nothing. They got, I don't know how many millions under arms, but I think their economic pressure is really the thing that they rely on. That whole Belt and Road thing, where they get countries in debt to them and just dominate them economically. I mean, why bother invading a country physically when all you got to do is spend a few million yen on their politicians? You know, so.
Right.
Okay, I've just in the chat here, I just added the Ontario Highway Traffic Act, but also reference the addition, the pilot project, and the second document much more interesting to read, more interesting.
Curious. Let's check that out.
So you want me to read it?
Well, I've just gone through it and then it's quite a long document and full of legalese, but
I can do like the first part of it, but this is a huge document. Both of
This
them.
is a large document, and it's only in English. Oh my goodness! It's not legal unless it's in French as well. You have to read it in French, Roger, for it to be official. Bilingual country.
Yes.
Now, the Highway Traffic Act, RSO 1990 CH8, is the Highway Traffic Act, and it is not yet enforced.
It is.
It's not. Not yet enforced provision appear in consolidated law as text with a gray background.
Actually, it is. It is only the text. Yeah, this is complicated. Not the only the text ray not right.
Not yet
Because it's based upon it is the 1999.
Okay,
Sorry, 1990 Act.
Hold up, I see what they're saying. Not yet enforced provisions. They appear in gray text.
Gray, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So what's not enforced, just to say it ahead of time, is they left a note and it says, on a day to be named by proclaimed by the lieutenant governor and definition of bicycle in subsection 1(1) of the act is amended.
It'd be to be fair, I think it's more better for us just to ignore that entire document and look at the additional document, the pilot project, the regulation 306/15.
With definitions, though, they say in this act, ambulance includes an ambulance as defined by the Ambulance Act.
We know one number.
So,
but yeah, ignore that document and go on to the second document because that's more relevant.
So we have the definition of a bicycle and then the definition of the ambulance.
Again, ignore that document. Ignore that document and go on to the pilot.
I don't know, Mark. This is fascinating. What is a bicycle? I've always wondered.
Bicycle. Okay,
relevant.
All right, I'm looking at the second document.
We have the Ontario Regulation 306/15, which is the pilot project, automated vehicles. Now, the interpretation says in this regulation, advanced driver assistance systems means an automated driving system that can control some or all aspects of the dynamic driving tasks. Approval means
We
approval to
ignore the
test
definitions
automated
because we all know what the
vehicles.
definitions are.
Vehicle. Hold up, I'm finishing.
Go and read the entire. Ignore the
Automated
entire
vehicles
document. Just
issued
read
under
the meat of
Section
the
9.
document.
Now, automated driving systems means a system that performs dynamic driving tasks to operate a vehicle with limited or no need for a dynamic driving task to be performed by a human driver. So, now the application. This regulation applies to autonomous vehicles with or without automated driving systems being engaged. This regulation does not apply to a motor vehicle with an automated driving system that operates at driving automation level 0, 1, or 2 other than a commercial motor vehicle as defined in subsection 12.14 that is equipped with an advanced driving assistance system and vehicle-to-vehicle communication systems that enable a cooperative truck platooning. So you have that right there. Application of the Act. The Act applies with necessary modifications to operation of an automated vehicle to a person who drives an automated vehicle and to the owner of an automated vehicle. With respect to the application of Part 11 of the Act, subsection 1 of this section shall be construed so as to allow from one owner or leasee of an automated vehicle the recovery of loss or damage sustained by any person by reason of the use or operation of an automated vehicle that is operating without a driver, but only to the extent that is not consistent with the degree of fault or liability, if any, of the person who sustained the loss or damage. Insurance for automated vehicles. The owner of an automated vehicle shall ensure it is insured under a contract of automobile insurance as defined under the Compulsory Automobile Insurance Act that provides coverage for liability resulting from bodily injury or death of one or more persons and loss of damage to property in the minimum amount of $5 million, or for a vehicle with a seating capacity of 8 or more passengers, liability resulting from bodily injury or death of one or more persons and loss of or damage to property in the minimum of the amount of $8 million. Now, the pilot project established. A pilot project is evaluated. A pilot project to evaluate the use of automated vehicles on highways is established. The minister shall conduct and complete an evaluation of the use of automatic vehicles on highways under the pilot project before January the 1st, 2026, and may, from time to time, during the course of the pilot project, conduct interim evaluations.
I got something. Okay, what about for ambulance, fire truck?
It's not. That's not relevant. But this is all about automated vehicles.
Yeah, but
they're not automated vehicles.
Well,
They've got a driver, like
Yeah.
a human driver.
I find the insurance interesting. But yeah, they're going to have to identify things like emergency vehicles. But you would think that eventually you'd have to have the emergency vehicles have transponders in them or something, so that the automated vehicles could get out of the way ahead of time. That might be helpful.
because what I'm referring to is for when
I
all
see,
that
I
happens,
Okay.
And two, where if someone's in the car has a heart attack, is that it going to be able to go to the hospital, all on its own?
Well,
Oh yeah, imagine delivering a dead person to their address.
Yeah.
Here comes grandma. It has a stroke on the way. Nobody notices.
now, to make it clear, what are you are you trying to insinuate that they're going to use automated driving vehicles for emergency use?
No.
Well, like if you're in a taxi, okay, and you having heart problems, or when you get into it, your reason why you're going there, you got to go to the hospital because you're feeling sick, you're hurt bad, and you tell them where to go. Are they going to be able to go if you're knocked out and passed out on the back seat?
Well, obviously, you've entered the vehicle of your own volition in the first place.
Well, I'm saying like when you pass out.
Well, well, the thing of it is like, will they have the authority to act like an emergency vehicle once that kind of situation happens? Because you got to remember, this is supposed to be artificial. This isn't.
Well, it is not artificial intelligence. An automated vehicle. No, it would come under the same rules as any other piloted domestic vehicle. In that respect.
So, do you think that they would be able to actually drive a person to a hospital if they went into a stroke?
Obviously, they can drive a person to hospital, but they still have to uphold provincial and federal driving laws, including speed limits.
Yeah, but too, what you could add something to where it sounds like what Circle Old Man said. Have it set up to where some kind of thing to notify the hospital that someone's out there. Not set out there and no one goes out and sees the car.
Say that again.
It didn't make sense.
Where you have a set up, something to set
where it
up.
can contact the hospital so that the hospital can have emergency units out there in front of the hospital.
That could be useful, actually, if it could do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to where.
Okay, that's not within this act. There'll be a private contractual thing between the medical services and company.
Well, I don't know about that, because like even with the phones, like you have free 911 on your phone for a reason. You know what I mean? If there's an emergency that takes place and you don't have services on your phone, you can still call 911 for assistance.
My phone actually has a setting that if it thinks it's been in an accident, it will call 911 automatically.
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody enters a normal taxi or a bus and they suffer from an heart attack, does the driver, the taxi driver, the bus driver, actually have a legal responsibility to inform the emergency services?
Yeah.
I would imagine that they would radio in. I mean, I can see a bus driving to the hospital.
I say legal responsibility.
Yeah.
Well,
I could see them being sued if they didn't, by the family of whoever died on the bus. Why didn't you stop? Why didn't you call a doctor?
Yeah.
I don't know what. I'm sure the regulations vary. The only thing I remember is we have something here, Good Samaritan laws, they're called, so that if you do try to help someone, you can't get sued. Say somebody is like, you think they're having a heart attack, you give them chest compressions, you wind up breaking the guy's ribs. You were doing your best, you acted in good faith. Unless it turns out you really hated the guy, and it's like, that's bad.
Again, that's in the US. That's not in Canada.
But could you imagine the ramifications of one of these automated cars not doing it, just literally ignoring the fact that a guy is dying in the back seat?
Well, if they're not programmed to look for it, but again, my phone apparently will call 911 if it says if it thinks the car's been in an accident, if something's happened to me. And I told the person that gave me the phone, I'm like, no, I'm not going to turn that on. It's like, no, it knows. It says, what if I drop it? It's like, that won't do it. But apparently there are already programs in place to save people. So I don't see why you wouldn't include that. Again, it's probably not regulated that you have to do so. They may not even have thought of it yet. This is a pilot program. They're just figuring out these things. I mean, we've had this technology for less than 30 years.
Now,
10 years, 10 years.
Dan is back. I'm going to have to fill him in on the definitions of what a firefighter is. We've gone through.
I want to ask a question though.
Okay.
What is the point of having autonomous taxi? What is the problem that Waymo is trying to solve with these automated taxis?
Too many people have jobs. You know, I mean, if the taxi drivers have jobs, you can't get them on the dole, and if they're not on the dole, they won't vote the way they're told. You know, you got your own income. You think for yourself.
Wages means less money for the stockholders.
Yes.
So that is exactly
those
the mayor of Toronto is pushing back on this proposal specifically because she thinks it's going to take away jobs for Torontonians.
Because she's being leaned on by lobbyists.
Well,
I'm sure the taxi drivers union is in there, you know, it's right there.
Well, but she is right, because you look at how many jobs that does provide. You need mechanics, gas stations.
The Waymo people also have their lobbyists too, so it's really the war of the lobbyists. And we have to tear down the rhetoric and see what the motivations are.
I would imagine Waymo, because of its connections to Alphabet, has not more money.
Yeah, but
money talks.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because when they start doing that, eliminating jobs.
Pardon me.
When they're eliminating jobs, you look at for how many jobs that the taxi company provides. You talk about gas stations, the oil industry,
diners.
Yeah,
stopping to eat, buying a paper. And of course, if you're a taxi driver, you make money, so you spend money. You stop at the store, you buy presents for your kids, you do all these other things.
Yeah,
so
you're supplying yourself with a home.
But those stockholders spend money too.
No, they don't.
They spend it in Barbados.
Yeah.
Remember, a lot of these taxi companies are relatively small companies. The vehicles are owned by the driver. So, especially in the UK, that's true. It's not like middle of New York where you've got, yellow cabs owned by a company.
All you're doing is renting a taxi from that company. That's all you do.
Yeah, you've got individual drivers that are contracted to a company who will drive their own vehicles, have to maintain their own vehicles.
Well, what they do is when you pay your $75 a day for the vehicle and everything that you make after, what you do.
And so you rent the vehicle. You rent a vehicle from the company.
Yeah. You're like a contractor sort of thing. My grandfather.
But
my grandfather was a cab driver and down in New York, and they had a system where I remember he had what they call a medallion. And you could, it was very expensive, but if you had a medallion, you could drive outside of the city limits without a medallion. But it was up to the individual driver. But yeah, it was some sort of an arrangement with the company. He did that for a while during the Depression, I guess, from the stories I heard. But it would get rid of a lot of these independent contractors. So I think that's arguably a sort of a contractor, taking a contract, I'll give you $75 I make, and I'll pocket the rest, and I'll use your vehicle, and I'll pay for my gas. Or sometimes they pay for the gas, depending upon the arrangement. So. But and again, as Mark points out, small businessmen as opposed to Waymo, the alphabet company.
But then when they got to pay for the mechanics as well too. Okay.
Well,
but in this
as
case,
being an ex
it
cab
won't be.
driver, I can give you guys a little feedback on this because it's actually something that is a good topic. Now, for working for the company, working for the garage, and paying them for to lease their cabs, compared to being the private contractor, I would love to have had the opportunity to just be my own contractor and not have to pay them freaking when it comes to freaking leasing the car every time because that right there is a freaking scam in itself. Okay.
But you could get the correct licenses
Right.
and
Exactly.
become your own company, become freelance.
Yeah, but how
Be
much
your,
is it all that?
But you would become a competitor.
yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
free market ideology.
Now, now
You,
the thing about it is with this whole thing about Uber, everybody's making Uber out to be so great, but
in this country.
Uber is actually covering up the amount of people that are freaking being murdered because of Uber drivers who ended up being serial killers and freaking rapists. I mean, how many women have been raped by Uber drivers?
Also in the UK, Uber has been criticised for employing illegal immigrants illegally for
Allegedly.
reasons, recent times.
So, I
Well,
mean,
that's
I
the
would
same
say
thing here in the U.S. with the
and,
truck driving licenses.
and it's like this whole connection to China too. This has to go into like um, the whole freaking free or the cheaper manufacturing.
I do not see an issue with China in this context because, again, what technology company is not buying chips, not getting their chips and getting the devices
Well,
manufactured
they're not
in
getting the
China?
chips from China. That's actually being done in California. What they're getting is
Oh,
they're actually
getting, I don't know, the
manufacturing.
chips stuck onto the PCBs in China,
Yeah,
whatever they
China
do.
builds the vehicle, sends it to California, and
Yeah,
California
precisely.
puts
So,
it.
yeah, the actual production.
Yeah, like that the Google chip, you know, that's what they're manufacturing. I guess they're installing that into the car.
Well,
And
everybody who's into this stuff already knows that Google is freaking knee deep into freaking China. Like that's just a
But
common.
so is a lot of other large companies. Like I say, Samsung, Hewlett Packard or HP now, Apple.
My phone's a Kyocera. Yeah, Japanese.
That's horrible.
Yeah, but is it
Korea?
totally made in Japan, or is some of it made, or at least put together in China?
Shanghai.
I'll look into it.
Do
Last
you know
I
the entire
checked,
chain?
Yeah, but answer me this.
I mean, it comes out of Shanghai of all places. All right, that's the most amazing part. Like Portland, Oregon should be ashamed of themselves. They've got that Shanghai connection still. You know what
I don't know. I can think. I can just looking at this device for instance. This came straight out of Shanghai. A lot of devices. I think all the devices.
Hold that up to your thing. I can scoot it up farther up to the camera.
Lights all over the place.
Okay, you see that little round thing in the center? That's what I was talking about. That where it has that in the center of the board.
Then
Yeah, that little round thing.
okay, I'm not sure I can see any other ones in, but the chips. There's a couple of chips.
Okay,
the Kyocera battery manufacturers, some of them are located in China.
Yeah.
According to
China is one of
the-
the biggest
chip-
battery manufacturers in the world. Is probably the biggest country, the country that provides the largest amount of batteries.
That's why they're pushing those EVs.
Yeah. Isn't like the Tesla's competitor, Bird, right? Or Bird, or however. That's the China brand. Apparently, their battery is longer lasting than Tesla's battery.
Well, it says here that the chips are manufactured in Taiwan, South Korea, or the United States. Qualcomm designs, though fabrication is often in Asia. So there's China right there. Probably they're buying their Chinese chips from the United States. That's interesting. Talk about a global market.
If you follow the chain, the supply chain with Scientificum, you probably find that all technology in one way or another has been, at least some of it, well, parts of it has been produced in China.
Yeah, they've inserted themselves into the supply chain quite effectively.
Yeah, but you look at what do you call the money? Okay, from each of the countries, the value of their income. Okay,
The GDP.
yeah, and like China made that statement a long time ago. Well, someone did that. They're keeping their the volume of their money down to where they can get more business way.
Oh, right, trade balances. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, here's the thing: you look at the countries that does that, okay, and how their economy is not really all that like Mexico. You look at how much their dollar is compared to the U.S. dollar or Canadian dollar, okay, and it makes you wonder, okay, what happens? What happens if their economy starts picking up even better? You know,
Right.
will companies that's there, are they going up and move to another country that their economy is not as good as what Mexico's is?
Again, it all depends on cost and logistics and
Yeah.
Yeah. And the regulatory framework, all it takes is a tariff or something, and changes the whole Sinus Treaty, and then suddenly, boom.
Yeah, because like John Deere tractor, since they left the U.S., it's 80% of it. It's in Mexico. It is right now. But if you're the technology for that, if you ever have to go get new parts for your tractor, you're going to be waiting a while as well, because you can't do it yourself. They point blank said they have to send a person from their company to your place to have that put into the vehicle. Until then, that tractor is not moving.
saying that, there's reports about Nvidia and Apple bringing some of the fabrication processes back to the US.
Oh, interesting. I was thinking about international trade, and I was thinking about the remarkable effect port wine has had on history. I was remembering somewhere, isn't one of the oldest treaties continuously in operation treaties in Europe is a treaty between England and Portugal, guaranteeing the flow of wine to England. And wasn't it they didn't really get heavily involved in the Napoleonic Wars until Portugal was threatened? Suddenly it's like, hey, get Wellington over there quick. It's like, wait a minute, they're getting at the wine. And isn't Portugal the only country in Europe that England didn't march through at one time or another? It was just like having wars with, war of Spanish succession, warring with France all the time. Germany was always there, but never Portugal. There was always the best of relations with Portugal. That's kind of interesting.
Did Napoleon ignore Portugal as well?
Well, no. That when Napoleon invaded Spain and threatened Portugal, that's when I think the French invaded. And then the English, definitely, that's when the Peninsular Campaign started. It was to protect Portugal, I think. That's my own little sideways take on history. It's like, it had nothing to do with Spain. It was all about Portugal. Really great relations between those two countries over the years. And I think it's all down to the port wine. Isn't England the largest consumer of port wine? Well, Australia probably, but that's sort of by extension.
Search on that one.
Largest consumer of port wine.
But what I was
Bet
referring
it's
to,
England. Even over Australia, I'm going to bet it's Great Britain.
What did I say? Largest consumer. No, United Kingdom has historically been the world's largest consumer of pork. The tradition that the Median Treaty of 1703. However, in recent years, French has become a fierce competitor,
Really?
often rivaling or slightly surpassing the UK.
My
in
goodness.
the volume of pork.
Really? Huh. I'm shocked.
Well,
Englishmen need to start taking more port.
according to Google Dynamite, fans of holds the largest market share by volume, often exceeding 25% of all port sales. United Kingdom being the second, Portugal being the third, or sometimes the second, depending on which year, and the United States being the fourth.
Interesting.
drink it up.
What was it Dr. Johnson said? Claret is a drink for boys, port is a drink for men, and brandy is a drink for heroes.
Yeah, I wonder how you know what's curious now? I wonder how does them electric cars work in Canada, Australia, because of how hot it is. Okay, you're working there in Canada with electric cars. How does the electric cars working in Australia?
I know they've got big distances to travel there too.
Yeah,
Very large distances to travel.
But we aren't talking about large distances. We're talking about inner city.
The initial pilot program. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm referring to is have a test done, okay, to see the durability of that vehicle and how it works, okay, when it goes from one stop area to the other, and during that time, how does the battery works in the process of that heat? Like how much of the liquid from the battery, if the battery gets, how hot does the battery get in that climate? From that distance to one to the other. Okay.
I know in the winter, an electric car, the battery can drain very quickly with an electric heater. That was, of course, this was a long time ago, but I drove a smart car for a while, small electric Mercedes-Benz thing. And teeny tiny little car, really kind of a cool little thing, but the range on it was very limited in the winter. Because we turned on the heater, the battery drained very quickly. Because again, it gets amazingly cold here. You know, below zero is not unknown, and we're talking below 0 Fahrenheit. None of that a feet Frenchified metric gobbledygook there. And so yeah, I've heard they've addressed that problem, but it's still certainly you got to think about the weather extremes. And again, this pilot program will be a good test if they can get through a Canadian winter. If they ever get the pilot program off the ground. I mean, this sounds like there are so many regulations that have to be complied with, and people objecting, so many special interest groups. And it sounds, it's only a limited a time frame for this legislation. Probably they're just going to have to introduce another later on and standardize their federal code somehow. That I think needs to be done.
Yeah, because here in the States,
but it could be just state-based.
Yeah, but if they don't do something about, like, in case of a fire or when that vehicle winds up in a car wreck.
They got to train their emergency personnel better. Injuries
governments tend to be, not overly proactive. They will face the issue after the issue has been.
Yes. Yeah.
Then how are they going to explain the issue of they knew about it but didn't do nothing about it until they got hurt?